Please answer that
Senator's
question.
time has expired.
Would you please ask the witness to answer the question? She's refusing to answer it. It's indefensible, but answer. Was there any reason? Or do you just give $1,500 to anyone?
Senator, your time has expired.
I would like her to answer the question. And you said she could answer the question. She has refused to do so multiple times. Please answer the question, Ms. Campbell.
She answered the question.
No, she did not. She said she didn't know those comments. That's not why she gave the money.
Senator.
Can I ask you why she gave the money?
No.
You don't know because she hasn't answered. Are you going to answer, Ms. Campbell, or does this committee not deserve to know why you gave money to a radical who says we are aligned?
Mr. Chairman, I have a lot of other senators have busy days. Can we get on with the next person?
So you don't want an answer to the question either, Senator Booker?
I just want to say for the
Are you able to answer the
record,
question, Ms. Campbell, or do you believe this committee doesn't deserve an answer to that question?
Mr. Chairman,
So you're silent. You're just refusing to answer.
who's next?
The senator's time has expired. If the senator doesn't like the answer, he can
It's
take
not
it
an
into
answer. She
account.
sat there silently and has not spoken. That is, by definition, not an
Senator
answer.
from
Hell just froze over, folks. Senator Ted Cruz just went toe-to-toe with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, exposing the left's hypocrisy on affirmative action and even forcing her to dodge the simplest question of all, what is a woman? This moment wasn't just fiery, it was a full-blown reality check for the woke elite. If you're tired of political double talk and ready to stand for truth, hit that like button, subscribe to Bold Stand, and turn on notifications, because here, we don't bow to the woke mob, we call them out. Stay bold, stay free, and let's dive in.
Judge Lopez, I'm going to quickly note there's a reason the Democrats have scheduled you on this panel, because you have a long pattern of sentencing criminal defendants to egregiously light sentences, including one child molester who molested a 4-year-old and 9-year-old, and you sentenced him to only 6 years in prison, including, as we heard before, one woman who was responsible for killing her 1-year-old son, who was coated in fentanyl. His pajamas were coated in fentanyl. His sheets were coated in fentanyl. You could have sentenced her to 30 years. You sentenced her to only 4 years. It's an egregious pattern, but the reason you're put on this panel is the Democrats know that most Republicans will not have time to question you about that terrible record because your colleague on this panel, her record is even worse. Ms. Campbell, I will say I have seen some astonishing nominees from this administration, but I have to admit your record takes the cake. A judge should not be a political activist. Your record demonstrates to me a long history of being a political activist, but not just an activist who affiliates with extreme and radical organizations. Now, when Senator Grassley asked you about the Workers' Dignity Organization, you gave, I think, deliberately misleading answer. You said you did not represent them, and that convinced Senator Grassley not to continue on that line of questioning. You have been a legal advisor to that organization since 2013. That is what you have publicly printed on your AVO biography. It is what has been described in the Tennessee Bar Association when you were nominated. It explicitly says she served as a legal advisor for local workers' rights nonprofit Workers' Dignity. Now, why is it you're distancing yourself from them? The reason is because they are utterly radical. If you look at this group that you've served as the legal advisor for over a decade, this is an openly Marxist organization. This is a communist organization. Now, those words are not said lightly. According to their own characterization of their views, this group says there's no election outcome that improves conditions for workers. The laws of this country have never worked for our people, and now that the system is crumbling, we will continue to stand in community and solidarity with each other. The only way we win in a world we deserve is by building a multiracial working class revolution that can push out white nationalism, violent state racism, and the capitalist class that is desperately clutching to hold control and profits as the people rise up. Why have you spent a decade as a legal advisor to an openly communist and Marxist organization? I don't think your microphone's on.
I apologize, Senator. If I could briefly clarify, more than a decade ago, probably for the course of 2 or 3 years, I served on an advisory board that helped this, at the time, was supposed to be a nonprofit workers' rights organization get set up and get started.
Did you know they were a communist organization?
Senator, at that time, they They did not express these kinds of views. It was an organization.
So
that
this
was-
is new. This wasn't the case then.
Yes, and I have not been affiliated with them in more than a decade. in
You're
any
aware that
way.
your current profile that you have up, your legal bio, says you are right now an advisor to them.
I apologize for any confusion about that. As
So
I
your
said,
testimony under oath, and that's all right, the facts will come out, but your testimony, I want to make it explicit. Your testimony under oath is that you have done absolutely nothing and had zero contact with them for how long?
I have not served on their advisory board for
You've done absolutely nothing and had zero contact with them for how long? Please answer the question.
many, many years.
How many?
I don't know, sitting here today. It's been many
Okay,
years.
if you look at other statements from this organization, because they are radicals. They are radicals. If you look also, this is the same group in 2020. They called for abolishing ICE, abolishing prisons and detention centers, and abolishing the police. Why did you volunteer for a communist organization that calls for abolishing ICE and abolishing the police?
Senator, I have never seen these comments before.
You didn't know who you were volunteering
I
for?
was not a volunteer for them at that
You were a legal advisor. Were you paid?
No, I was
Then
not.
you were a volunteer. If you volunteered to be a legal advisor, you were a volunteer. Why did you volunteer? Do you support abolishing ICE?
Senator, at this time, I
Do you
had.
support abolishing ICE?
I do not, Senator.
Well, it's amazing because a minute ago you also told Senator Graham that the Tennessee Immigrant and Refugee Rights Coalition that has a manifesto calling for abolishing ICE, you said you had nothing to do with it, which is fairly astonishing because on page 3 of their manifesto, they thank you by name for what they say. We would like to thank the following individuals and organizations for their thoughtful feedback and input. This platform would not have been possible without their expertise. Are they lying?
Senator, I'm not familiar with that manifesto.
Are they lying? Did you provide any assistance? Did you give feedback and input, which is what they say on the cover page?
Senator, I didn't even know that existed, and so no, I did not provide input on it.
And why, when Senator Graham asked why you gave money to this radical candidate who has said 52 senators are Jim Crow senators and said multiple of us are siding with the devil, you laughed and thought that was funny. But Senator Graham asked you a question. Look, that candidate was as radical as I've ever seen. And when Senator Graham asked why you gave money to that candidate, you just smiled and didn't answer. So why did you give money to a radical candidate who believes multiple members of the Senate are siding with the devil?
Senator,
Actually, Senator Whitehouse, you weren't here before, but there was an exchange with the chairman where Senator Kennedy asked for longer periods because you have 2 circuit justices, and the chairman said he was going to give additional time. So the comment, they want to be gavelled, it's part of the show, is not accurate, and Senator Welch said he was going to give additional time. In fact, he said at the beginning he was going to give 6 minutes. So my question, you did not answer Senator Graham.
Mr. Chairman, how much time has
Why did you
expired?
give money
How
to
much
this
time has
radical?
expired? I just want to clarify. I just walked in. Is
Why
it
did you give money?
6 minutes? Because it seems like more than 6 has passed.
Why did you give money to this radical? Put up the devil one too. Why did you give money to this radical candidate? $1,500, a lot of money. That's a question.
Senator, again, I'm not familiar with these comments. I
Why
do not
did you
support
give money
them.
to this radical candidate?
Odette,
What? Could you let her answer the question, please?
I'm not familiar with these comments, and
Why did you give money to her? That's the question. You're not going to answer? You're refusing to answer why you gave money to her.
Senator, I'm not familiar with these
That's not an answer. My answer is, why did you? What is the affirmative reason? You gave $1,500. There was something you saw in her that you said, this needs $1,500. Why? Please answer that
Senator's
question.
time has expired.
Would you please ask the witness to answer the question? She's refusing to answer it. It's indefensible, but answer. Was there any reason? Or do you just give $1,500 to anyone?
Senator, your time has expired.
I would like her to answer the question. And you said she could answer the question. She has refused to do so multiple times. Please answer the question, Ms.
She
Campbell.
answered the question.
No, she did not. She said she didn't know those comments. That's not why she gave the money.
Senator,
Can I ask you why she gave the money?
No.
You don't know because she hasn't answered.
Senator's
Are you
time-
going to answer, Ms.
the
Campbell, or does
senator's
this
time
committee
has
not deserve to
expired.
know why you gave money to
The
a
senator-
radical who says we are aligned with
Mr. Chairman, I have a lot of other senators of busy days. Can
Yeah.
we get on with the next
So
person?
you don't want an answer to the question either, Senator Booker?
I just
Are
want
you
to say
able
for
to
the
answer the
record,
question, Ms. Campbell, or do you believe this committee doesn't deserve an answer to that question?
Mr. Chairman,
Who has,
So
who
you're
has,
silent.
who has
You're
the floor?
just refusing to answer.
who's next?
The senator's time has expired. If the senator doesn't like the answer, he can
It's
take
not
it
an
into
answer. She
account.
sat there silently and has not spoken. That is, by definition, not an
Senator
answer.
from
What's up, patriots? Welcome back to Bold Stand, the channel where we call out the lies, expose the hypocrisy, and defend the truth that the mainstream media refuses to touch. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring that bell so you never miss when we drop the truth. Let's stand bold together. Now let's get right into it, because hell must have frozen over today. Senator Ted Cruz just went head-to-head with Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, and what came out of that exchange is nothing short of jaw-dropping. Cruz grilled Jackson on two of the most controversial and defining issues in America today: affirmative action and the left's refusal to define what a woman is. And let's just say, when the heat turned up, Jackson's answers didn't exactly inspire confidence in the rule of law. Cruz started by pressing her on the recent Supreme Court ruling that struck down race-based affirmative action in college admissions. Jackson, of course, has been a strong defender of identity politics and equity over equality, and Cruz wasn't about to let her get away with the doublespeak. He asked the question millions of Americans have been asking for years: why should a person's skin color determine their opportunities in life? Isn't the very concept of affirmative action just a repackaged form of discrimination, the exact thing civil rights laws were meant to eliminate? And that's when you saw Jackson start to deflect. She gave vague, academic answers about lived experience, systemic barriers, and historical inequities. But here's the truth: equality before the law means everyone is treated the same. The left doesn't believe that anymore. They want equal outcomes, not equal opportunity. And Cruz, to his credit, didn't let her dance around it. He called out the hypocrisy right there. He reminded everyone that Martin Luther King Jr. dreamed of a nation where people are judged by the content of their character, not the color of their skin. The radical left has twisted that dream into a nightmare of racial quotas and ideological conformity. Then came the moment that set social media on fire. Cruz shifted gears and asked Jackson one simple question: what is a woman? The same question she famously refused to answer during her confirmation hearing. And once again, she dodged. She danced around the question, hid behind legal jargon, and refused to state the obvious biological truth that every sane person knows: a woman is an adult human female. But this is the left's new religion. They can't say what a woman is, because the woke mob would turn on them in a second. And here's the thing, patriots, this isn't just about semantics. When a Supreme Court justice can't define what a woman is, how can she fairly rule on cases involving women's rights, biological reality, or gender-based law? This isn't intellectual honesty, it's moral cowardice. Cruz exposed it perfectly. He showed the world that the so-called progressives on the bench are more interested in pleasing activists than upholding the Constitution. Jackson represents the radical legal ideology that says truth is subjective and identity trumps reality. This moment was bigger than a political debate. It was a clear snapshot of where our country stands. The left has abandoned reason. They've traded science and fairness for ideology and emotion. And every time they do, America loses a little more of its foundation. Senator Cruz stood firm and exposed it for what it is: nonsense wrapped in intellectual arrogance. And you know what? The American people see through it. We're tired of the lies, tired of the double standards, and tired of watching our institutions bend to woke insanity. That's why channels like Bold Stand exist, to bring truth back into the spotlight. Because when people like Ted Cruz speak up, it reminds us that not everyone in Washington has gone completely off the rails. Some still believe in the Constitution, common sense, and the rule of law. If you stand with truth, if you're done watching this country bow to political correctness, then hit that like button, drop a comment with "I stand bold," and make sure you're subscribed, because we're just getting started. This is Bold Stand, where conservative voices rise and truth has no filter. Stay bold, stay free, and God bless America.